Hello everyone and welcome to week 6 of Christmas Tag Tuesday. So today I'm going to show you a fairly quick tag that can be put together with a very quick colouring technique. You can see I've got the Christmas Reindeer stamp set in front of me. I do love the deer, but I love the sentiments as well as this banner here. I think that's going to be one that I'll keep for a long time because it does come in handy to have something like that with sentiments that are already curved and ready to stamp inside that banner. Hang around to the end of the video because I do have some extra things to show you where I have used this reindeer. So this set comes with thin cuts. It also has thin cuts for this ribbon and bell arrangement and also for the holly and ivy, but I'm just using the reindeer and the banner today. So I just need these two thin cuts here. So I'm going to use some vintage photo for this. And I find that it's much easier to put the ink pad to the stamp image because this is a larger area and these Distress Oxide inks are quite easy to pick up and hold and stamp onto your image. And then I'm simply going to put this down, and Distress Oxide inks stamp really nicely. So I've left that with time for the ink to soak into the paper, and you can see how beautifully that has stamped. And you've seen me do this technique before with a water brush. I am going to just pick up the ink from the edges of the antlers and bring that into the stamped area. I'm not trying to colour the whole entire piece. I'm just picking up the Distress Oxide inks from the edge of the stamped image and bringing that into my piece. And if I go outside the lines, it really doesn't matter too much because this is a watercolour piece. So I want it to look natural and quite freehand. But you can see what I'm doing is just going over the areas where the shading is. And I am avoiding the area where the crown with the holly leaves and the holly is, just for the moment because I don't want that in the browns. And when I get down to this section here, I'm just doing a little wiggle with my pen to spread that part around. I don't want to apply too much water. I'm not squeezing this water brush at all. I'm just letting the water flow so that it doesn't add too much to the image. And I'm just doing a little bit of light touching around. If I had too much water on this, some of the details from the stamp image would be lost. And that's it. That's all I'm doing for it. I'm not going to add any more colour to it. I'd want the highlights with the white areas, and that just sort of brings this reindeer to life, I think. To add colour to the holly leaves, I'm bringing in a shimmer brush, and this one is green apple. I found the shade of the green apple to go nicely with the vintage photo. I'm just going to give this a bit of a shake just to loosen up the glitter elements. I'm not squeezing at all, and I'm not applying this to colour in all of the area of the holly. I want to leave light and shade just like I did when I was using the Distress Oxide inks on the stamped image of the deer. So you can see I'm just sort of doing little wiggly bits with this. It doesn't matter if it's not perfectly coloured in. I'm leaving a few little areas because you can see there are some berries here. And I am going to bring some red in, but you can see I'm just going in and just adding a little bit more colour where I think it's necessary. So the shimmer brushes paint really well. I could then come in with my scarlet and just apply little dabs of scarlet shimmer brush, just using the tip of the shimmer brush so that I can get little areas of holly. And I think you can see that in this one here that I did. I just applied a few little dots around where the holly is. With this technique, you don't have to necessarily just apply it to where the little circles are for the berries. I'll take the image out here so that you can see it just a little bit better. There are circles within the stamp set. So if I just applied it to those areas, that's fine. If I want to add more like I have here to spread it out across, I can do that as well. So it's totally up to what you want to do with it. What I'm going to do with this one is add some sparkles to it. Now, if I just add these as plain sparkles, I could do that, but I want to add some red to it. So I've got my dark red shades And I'll do this over the top of the white so you can see what's happening. I'm going to go in with the mid colour because I want to see how that looks. If I was using the blends, I would probably use the darkest of that tri-blend marker so that I got a nice deep red with this. And I think that's a really good colour to go with the deer and the holly and the way that this has been coloured. So this is a really good technique if you want a specific sparkly item and you don't have the colour for it. I quite often use my clear sparkles and my bitty sparkles to colour them to make them exactly the colour that I want for my project. So for me, these are the most flexible dots that we have. Now I've coloured 10, so I'm going to just do 11. I don't know if I'm going to use all 11, but I do want an odd number. I am going to set that aside to dry because I'm going to die cut this piece out and I'll apply these last. So now what I'm going to do so that I can die cut this in one pass is ink up the banner, and I'm going to do that with shortbread ink. I'm just going to put that on an angle so that it will fit with the two dies together. You don't want to stamp too closely because when you run them through your die cutting machine, you don't want the dies to overlap at all. I do use washi tape to make sure that that doesn't happen, but just to be doubly sure, I always leave a bit of room. And then I'm going to stamp the Merry Christmas with scarlet ink. And that's already on an angle to fit perfectly within this banner piece. So now I'm just going to attach these with some washi tape and run these through my die cutting machine. Now that these are done, I can assemble my tag. So I have two pieces of paper cut here at 2 inches by 5 inches, and I'm going to adhere them together. Because our pattern paper is double-sided, I can choose exactly what side I want, but I'm going for the neutral look for this one. And I love using liquid glue because I've got a bit of time to make sure that everything is all nicely aligned. Now I'm making a custom tag for this because I wanted a long skinny tag and we don't have a thin cut for this size. So now I need to cut the top of the tag, and to get these exactly the same, I'm going to cut from one side a little triangle, hold that in my hands, turn that over, line that up in the corner, and then I can cut away the left side, and then these will be nice and equal. And then I'm just going to bring in my single hole punch, and I take the back of this off so that I can see where I'm punching, and I can line that up in the middle and punch my hole out. And now I can assemble my tag. Now I'm going to put my reindeer here, and then I'm going to have my banner across the bottom. But I've decided that I want to give this a little bit more dimension. So I've got some other ones that I have already coloured, and some I haven't quite die cut exactly. So I'm going to put this together with some foam tape so that you can still see the image from behind. I've got all the inside of my shaker tags left over from when I was making tags the other day that involved shakers. So I'm going to use those pieces because on the little edges there are some finer pieces that will fit into these sections where the antlers are. They don't have to be totally covered, as long as there's a little bit in each of these just to give that some lift between this one and the one I'm putting underneath. And you can see from this, if you look side on, I'm hoping this camera is picking this up, you can see that this one is stamped underneath as well. And I'm going to repeat that for a third one. So that gives it quite a bit of dimension to put onto the tag and makes a real statement piece. Now I'm going to adhere a little bit of foam tape on each side of this Merry Christmas so that that has a little bit of support. So I'm just going to use this as a guide and flip that over and get my pencil so I know where to put the foam tape. And I've got 2 pieces of foam tape here, so I'm going to put 2 pieces on each side of this and layer that on top of each other. I'm just going to check that I've got the width right, and that fits quite nicely. And then I'm going to put that over my tag to make sure that I've got that bit right, because at this stage I can still peel those pieces of foam tape off if they show too much, and in this case this one does. So what I'm going to do is just peel this off gently and turn it around so the flat edge is on the outside, and then that should all be fine. So it's just working out exactly where you want your foam tape to go and making sure it doesn't show. So I can peel this one off and put another piece on top. And that way it will be the same height as the reindeer that we've just made. I'm just going to rub away those little pencil marks that I just made. And now I can adhere everything together. Now the aqua glue comes out quite readily, so I'm hardly squeezing at all. I'm going to bring him down a little bit and put him in the center. If you get a little bit of glue on the outside, when you put your glue on, make sure you don't go away on the outside. You can rub that off later with the rub and remove eraser. And now I'm going to adhere this one, and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue over the bottom section there, and then I can feel where that slots in. And that's all the assembly that's required. Now you don't need to go to the level of putting extra pieces on here. I just wanted to make a nice dimensional tag. You could just adhere the piece that you've worked on directly to the tag, but I wouldn't recommend using the aqua glue because it's quite wet, and if you do that it could mess up your Distress Oxide inks on the other side if you use too much, because they do react with water. So now I'm just adhering these little bitty sparkles that we've coloured onto this area here, just to bring a little bit of sparkle and shine and colour to this piece. The close to my heart tweezers make it really easy to pick these up off the carrier sheet. So I have to have odd numbers, and I think 9 is going to be enough. So I'll just put one up here. And then I've just got some twine that has a bit of a gold thread in. I picked this up quite a long time ago from a $2 store, and I just loved it, so I bought quite a bit of it, so I have quite a bit of that in my stash. If you wanted to do this look and you didn't want to do the additional colouring, because you can just see the outlines of that, but it would be all right just with a plain white die cut piece, you could just die cut these from white and layer them up. But as I said before, if you didn't want to do all the layers for the dimension that I think you can see here, I really love how that looks and it's popping up off the tag. You could just adhere a single layer directly to the tag base. Now I'm going to bring in a couple of cards that I've created. I know this is Tag Tuesday, but I wanted to show you that it's quite easy to take this technique and put it onto a card as well. So you might recognize these. These are from the Christmas Story workshop guide that I just did, that included layouts and cards with a full cutting guide. But you can see I've used the deer the same way. This one has the Scarlet Shimmer brush as part of the berries. And for these background strips, I've used the Holly embossing folder and stencils. So if you've already purchased that, you're able to do something like that. You could even do this section as the tag piece and put that underneath rather than a pattern paper. I think the embossing folder would work quite well. If you don't have that one, look through your stash. I'm sure you've got something a bit Christmassy, or even diagonal lines or dots would work really well with this deer. And this one here, I've used the bitty sparkles, and these ones I've treated a bit differently with the banner part of the sentiment. This one's stamped in scarlet with black ink, and this one is stamped in pine with black ink. So it just gives a different feel to all of them. These have been popped up. This one's double layered and then up on foam tape. This one is single layered and up on foam tape. So that gives you a little bit of difference with height and what you can achieve with a little bit of foam tape and dimension. A water brush and Distress Oxide inks is all the colouring that you need to do. And I think when you're watching that, that would have taken me about a minute to do that piece of the colouring. So really it is fast, it's simple, and it's very, very effective. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Christmas Tag Tuesday. Happy crafting, and I hope to see you next week. Bye for now.